Hi, my name is Koa, and I don't read books. Okay, that's not entirely true. I have read books. I used to read a lot when I was a kid, and I used to like reading a lot. I just haven't read most of the classics and most of the books that are beloved by most people. Basically, over time, life just sort of hit me like a high storm, and I haven't picked them up in years. Also, I find myself doom scrolling way too much. That's just a whole problem that I have. So think of this as a way of detoxing myself. Also, I wanted to start doing book reviews because it was just a way that I feel like could hold me accountable, right? Just so like I don't know, just like like a little vlog, like a little diary. I think. What the fuck is going on here? Like I said, this project's a way to hold me accountable and to get back into this hobby that I loved so dearly. So naturally, I was just like, well, what book do I start off with? I mean, there's so many to choose from. So naturally, I was like, okay, I need to read a high epic fantasy, something super, super duper long, naturally. Right, let's not start small. Let's try something big here, because I mean, I'm ambitious, and so I need to try something big. So I picked up The Way of Kings. Look at this fucking chunky. Look at him. Look how big he is. Wow. So this is the first book in Brandon Sanderson's The Stormlight Archive. Yeah, this was honestly, I'm very impressed with myself that I was able to finish this book. Took me a month, maybe like a month and a half, maybe like two. Let's say 2 months. Let's say 2 months. It took me about 2 months to finish this book, because it was very hard. I was really worried I was gonna drop it. Like I was like, oh man, maybe I flew too close to the sun with this thing. Mainly because I have a terrible attention span, and so if I go one day without reading, I think I will go weeks without reading, which sucks. But I'm doing this so that it holds me accountable. Stop looking at doing this so I can hold myself accountable. Also, I thought I was too stupid to read. I've like, you doom scroll so much, and to the point that you're like, do I even remember how to read? Do I know? Could I even follow along to stuff? But good news is I do know how to read, and I'm not dumb. I think when you sink your teeth into something like this and you get immersed into it, you get really immersed into it. I will say that during scenes like the bridge runs, during scenes like most of the battle scenes in this book at first were hard to follow, but you get used to it kind of quickly. And when you really slow down, you think about how things operate, like the bridge runs, and understanding, like the maneuvers that Bridge 4 uses, you get used to it. Also, Sanderson's writing is just nice. It's easy for me to follow along to. But yes, I did finish the book. I am so proud of myself. You have no idea. This is so chunky. Like, I'm so happy, actually. But without further ado, let's get into the review. I have notes here so that it'll so if you ever catch me glancing like this, and also because I don't really want to edit all of this, and I don't want to do so scripted, I want to seem a little bit more natural. So that's how we're going to do it. First, we'll get into this world building, and then we'll get into characters. And then throughout that, we'll weave in the plot. So that's how I'll do it. And there will be spoilers. So there's no way. Okay, I will say this. The book is very good. Okay, now spoilers. Okay, there's no way I can actually talk about this book without getting into spoilers. It would be impossible. It would be so hard for me to get into this book without spoilers, because so many of the moments that I love are spoilers. And so I wouldn't be able to tell you what I love about it. Let's get into it. This book is big. I've already talked about that. But Roshar is even bigger. It's actually so overwhelming to follow so many. It's just because, this is my first Sanderson book, and I know about the Cosmere. I know that all the books are in this universe called the Cosmere. So I don't know exactly how much of outer world building there is, but within Roshar, there's just so much. But I think Sanderson does an incredible job at easing you into the world and immersing you into it in a way that is just enjoyable, which is a testament to great writing, I think. Now, the majority of the story takes place in Alethkar, the Shattered Plains, and Kharbranth. Shallan's from Jah-Keved, but we get our main story focused in those three areas. There's a lot of ones that there's a lot of stuff I'm not going to be able to pronounce, but I'm going to get through it. You do get a lot of information about the outside world through a lot of character dialogue, as well as the interludes, which I was heavily considering skipping, and I'm really glad I didn't do that. I think each one takes place in a different place on Roshar, because the interludes are awesome. I will have to go back to them and reread them, but I found them super interesting. Also, I don't think I've read a book with a map in it, if I'm being honest. Did The Hobbit have him? I actually read The Hobbit. I haven't read the Lord of the Rings books, but I have read The Hobbit, which is weird. Look at that. Oh my gosh. I haven't read a book with a map in like so long. Very cool. But yeah, they provide a lot of information like the geography, the kind of people that live there, their lifestyles. We get information on people like the Shinovar who like think of everything as useless or something like that. They find a lot of things useless. And the way they trade is weird with other people that are outside of the world. I can't talk too much about it because I forgot. And I forgot some details about the interludes. But the main story, you know, I have definitely soaked all of that in. Also, didn't really understand at the beginning of each chapter, there's kind of a quote or there's like someone dying. Kind of like a Call of Duty death screen, you know? It was really confusing until the end of the book. Sanderson's also really good at creating such an interesting atmosphere. He's managed to do something that I haven't really been able to see is so unique in the way it functions. So everything in the book revolves around high storms. And so because of these gigantic storms, basically hurricanes that come in every so often, the people, the wildlife, plants, everything has been able to adapt to these storms. And it is also the source of the magic that operates in the world. Basically, the storms are the most fundamental part of the story, aside from all the lore stuff. The storms are used to charge the currency that's in Roshar, and it's also used as their light source. I will say the idea of Spren was like kind of confusing. Different kinds. There's like Rot Spren, Death Spren, Ale Spren. It was an element of the story that wasn't, or as far as I can tell, wasn't needed, besides Syl. We love Syl. It is very much appreciated. I think it adds a bit more color to the world. Yeah, I'm glad it's there. It grew on me. I was like, oh, you know, I can picture it in my head. You know, I have a brain that can imagine what these things look like, even though it's hard to imagine what a Windspren looks like. There are so many looming elements to the story that I'm not so sure I understand fully. And the characters don't know, you know? The characters have no idea what most of these things mean. So how do you think I feel, you know? Things like the Knight's Radiance, the Heralds, the Almighty, the Voidbringers. That's another one. They pop up and we have no idea what they are. And the characters don't even know. The characters are just like, yeah, man, shit's confusing. You know what I mean? Right? Jasnah doesn't even know. Jasnah's like the smartest character in the book, you know? And that kind of goes to show, you know, a lot of the history of Roshar is really just people just don't know. You know, people are just confused by it. So those are secrets that are going to be uncovered in other books. And, you know, I'm only in 1 of 5. And there's probably going to be like 10 books, apparently, or something like that. So I have a long way to go. So although I don't know what any of those things mean, they are puzzle pieces that, although the characters are nowhere near able to solve the puzzle, they are collecting the pieces. Okay, so let's get into characters. So, please don't hate me for this. Not the biggest Shallan fan, okay? Well, I will say that I don't dislike any of the characters, right? But if I had to pick one that I just don't like compared to all the other ones, it would probably be Shallan. Now, why is that? I don't think I found her personality as appealing as others might have found it appealing. She's got a cleverness to her. She's got a bit of wit. But Shallan is not wit. She ain't got any of the wit that Wit's got. Hoid. That's his name. I do find her story interesting. I think that with time, I think by the end of the book, I actually did start to like Shallan. But at the beginning, it was more so of a thing where I was like, oh man, all she does is read books and shit right now. Right? She does, like, one of her main plot point is that she wants to steal Jasnah's Soulcaster, which we find out later on was completely pointless, because Jasnah doesn't need a Soulcaster to Soulcast. But then Shallan's able to do it, and then Shallan starts, like, going schizo, and she starts seeing things, right? So I don't know where that's going, but I'm really excited for where her character's going next. That being said, I can really understand her struggle with wanting to pursue her passion in academia, but she also has an allegiance to her family, and she needs to make sure that her family is going to be okay. But then over time, we find out there's this looming danger that is occurring across Roshar, and it seems like she's going to have to lock in for a bit and focus on saving the world, which I'm excited to see where she goes from there. Oh, and Yasna, we love Yasna. Yasna's great. Yasna is honestly peak. Love Yasna. Next, Adolin. I liked Adolin. I think Adolin needs a bit more development in terms of being someone that can be admired separate from his father. We can see throughout the novel that Adolin's trying to be this voice of reason with his father, who is becoming how he interprets as more, and like he's going crazy, and Adolin is worried about his father. You can tell how much that man loves his father. I think every father would want a son like Adolin, because he stands by his father no matter what, calls him out on his bullshit if he thinks he's bullshitting, right? Because my thing is when you see to a normal person, I can't be mad at Adolin for. I can't be upset with Adolin for being upset about these visions that are occurring. Any sane person would think that their father is going crazy if their father was experiencing the same thing that Dalinar was, right? It's respectable. And he was on the money about Sadeas. Adolin's a good guy. Adolin has followed in his father's footsteps in terms of leading with honor, being an honorable man, taking care of your kingdom as a high prince should, which is respectable compared to everybody else on Alethkar. The thing with Alethkar is that Alethkar sucks. Alethkar is a broken nation. It's split into high princes that fight amongst each other for gem hearts, but at the same time, they're all battling this group called the Parshendi, which we don't know much about. War against the Parshendi is just a game to them, right? And I honestly, it sucks because I feel so bad for the Parshendi throughout this, because they're literally getting slaughtered. Their asses kicked all the time throughout the book. And the Parshmen are basically second-class citizens. You feel bad for them. I think a moment that made me feel really bad in the story was when Shen had to witness Kaladin wearing his own people's bones on his body. It's just, Parshendi have a culture, and Alethkar views them as less than human. They view them as monsters. And we don't know. They have their own culture. They can sing pretty well, and they chant a lot, and they have their own, identity. But the thing with them is that Alethkar just doesn't view them as human. They are just terrible as a society. It thrives off of killing their own people, throwing them out into war, fighting for a war that they really don't know why they're fighting, besides the fact that they killed their king. But even so, it's just throwing bodies out onto the shattered plains just so that they can win some gem hearts, But there is hope. Adolin is hope for the future. Hope for Alethkar. I forgot to mention Szeth, and I feel like Szeth is actually really important to mention. He's mostly shown in interludes, but I did like Szeth. Although, I'm going to be honest, I didn't find those interludes as exciting, mainly because there's nothing really I can understand Szeth's struggle, and so I understand that he's got this oath stone, whoever has a stone becomes his master, so he's basically forced to listen. Loved how Szeth desperately wanted the stone to be in the hands of someone that was just ignorantly stupid with the stone. He genuinely didn't want the stone to be in the hands of someone that was powerful, that could use him to do some serious damage, which he ends up doing. He does not want to kill people. I don't know enough about the stone. Basically, I'm saying I don't know enough about the stone that he has. What happens if he doesn't kill? What happens if he just goes I don't really, no, I'm good. I want to know, but I guess he's just viewed as someone that doesn't have honor. And we'll see. I think that we're going to get so much more on Szeth in the next few books. He's playing out to be an antagonist, and I can't wait to see where that goes. Next up, we have Dalinar, my goat. Dalinar, my goat. He is great. I love Dalinar because you have someone that is viewing the state of his nation, and he's seeing it, and he's honestly becoming disgusted with it. He's looking at how high princes operate, all the war strategies that are being used. The selfishness of it all, honestly. He's seeing it and he's being disgusted because he's starting to understand his brother that died, King Gavilar. He's starting to understand what he was trying to do. And then the Way of Kings is also making him understand that we need to unite as a people. We need to come together and do what's right, what's honorable. I think Dalinar is at a pretty low point when we get introduced to him. He's struggling to keep his people together. He feels like what he's doing has no meaning. He feels like he's just participating in the game that the rest of the High Princes are playing in. But he wants something more. He wants to do what's best for his people. He wants to see an Alethkar that is united. There's so much neglect we find in Alethkar. People are not caring. It feels like they're not fighting for a cause. Alethkar is just so unserious as a nation is basically what I'm saying. And Dalinar is trying. Dalinar is doing the best he can. He's realizing this. I thought his visions were something that were very important to the story and added an element to Dalinar where it caused Dalinar to sort of second guess what he was doing at all times. He wasn't sure if he could trust Sadeas. Even he thought at one point that he was probably going crazy. So it's the visions, him reading The Way of Kings, which I didn't know The Way of Kings was also a book. It's a book in a book. Bookception. Also, he's the Blackthorn. The guy is awesome. Every battle he's in sucks you in. Such a badass. And he's like in his 50s. This isn't even peak Dalinar. You know, he's getting older and he loves his sons and his sons love him. Honestly, it's a very wholesome interaction between his sons and him. Like it's very wholesome. I love seeing a good father-son relationship. As far as his other family goes, obviously you kind of find Elhokar being a bit of a brat. he's like got this role of a king, but at the same time, his paranoia is a bit justified because, I mean, there was someone coming after him. He doesn't have bad ideas. You know, at one point, Dalinar gives him suggestions on what they should do as a kingdom. And Elhokar is just like, shit, you right. we should try that out. Yeah, that's not a bad idea, actually. Yeah, I will heavily take that into consideration. Elhokar, I feel like, has potential to be a king, but his paranoia just gets in the way. I think that's what I feel about Elhokar. Also, he's a bit of a brat, but I can see him becoming better. And I think after Dalinar, gave him a bit of a beating, I think Elhokar is on his way to becoming a pretty good character. Now, finally, the actual GOAT, the best character, the one that's portrayed as the protagonist of the series, and it's done very well, my boy, Kaladin Stormblessed. Now, there is a lot to talk about with Kaladin. Kaladin is someone that I find struggles, and you'll notice this with Kaladin is someone I find that is... And similar to a lot of all the other characters, he is struggling with an identity throughout the novel. Kaladin grew up as a son of a surgeon, and he thought for a very long time he was going to become a surgeon. But he did want to become a spearman at one point. And so throughout the novel, he's kind of struggling with, like, who am I as a person? What am I really doing? It's his confusion with his identity, along with him feeling like he is cursed. He has gone through so much. I don't think I've read a story where a main character has experienced this much trauma and this much pure pain, losing everyone that he's ever known. And what's interesting is the novel starts off with you thinking that, oh, well, this is the main character, like, he's riding a horse, leading people in the battle, and he's, like, majestic as hell, because you see that from the perspective of a younger boy. And then the next chapter, he's being pulled away, like, as a slave. And I was honestly so relieved. I was thinking, like, oh, man, am I not going to be able to relate this guy, like, in any way, shape, or form? Like, he's just going to be some, like, almighty, like, hero. Kaladin is amazing. We find out that, he's not cursed. In fact, he is Stormblessed. He becomes Stormblessed. And he manages to take people that are at the lowest of the low in their lives, having to basically go not sure if they're able to survive into the next week, do these bridge runs, because they view that they could just die any day from the conditions they're living in, having to run these bridges across chasms and plateaus. And he was able to show them how to live again, prove to them that there is something worth living for. Bridge 4 was rough whenever they were first introduced. They were people that did not even want to say their names because they were like, what's the point? They knew they were going to die. But then Kaladin comes in also feeling that way, but then deciding, no, I'm going to show these men we should live life before death. And I think that realization was part of the reason why he became who he was towards the latter half of the novel. These ideals of the Radiants are fire. Oh, and whenever he pleads the second ideal, the I will protect those who cannot protect themselves. Oh, man. He pulls you back in. He inspires you so much. Every moment that Bridgefort sits down and eats is like pure joy for me. I'm like, oh, this is so nice. Like, and I love Rock. I love Teft. I love Sigzil. I love Moash. Moash took a little bit of time to grow on me, to be honest. Lopin, you can't forget Lopin. We love Lopin. I loved it. I loved this. I love when I mean, it's trauma bonding, if I'm being honest. They are able to come together and experience hell together. And through that, they become closer, and then they live through that. Definitely listens to Evanescence. And he couldn't have done it without Syl, which there's a lot to talk about with Syl, which Syl is a mystery. I don't know too much about Syl yet, where she came from, what the idea of honor spren. She's an honor spren. I don't know what that means yet. I'm excited, though. I would just say the book is peak. The book is such peak. You know, reading through this book, I was really uncertain if any of my interpretations of the characters, the plot, any of that was correct. I wasn't sure if I was taking away the messages of the book that I was supposed to be taking, and I find that I'm going to be experiencing that with every book I read from now on. And it's like these kind of things that I just haven't, like, I guess now that my brain's developed a bit more, I just haven't thought about the messages that I'm supposed to be taking away from books. So I'm not sure if I was on the money with any of the ideas, but then I thought about it and I was like, I can really only speak to my experience. I can only say what I feel. I can empathize and feel the pain that Kaladin goes throughout this novel, all the struggles he experiences. I can understand Dalinar wanting the best for Alethkar. He wants to be someone that can make the future a better place. I can understand Shallan, this battle between whether she wants to pursue her passion in scholarship and wanting to help out her family. I can understand what these characters go through, and those struggles have made them stronger. And I've thought a lot about the book since I finished it, and I finished this a couple days ago. I have been thinking an awful lot about it. And I think that's also just a testament to how good of a writer Brandon Sanderson is. To be able to leave me with lots of thoughts about the book, leaving me with feelings that I still have for all these characters. I've grown very attached to all of these characters reading through the book. Even Shallan, right? It makes me sound like I hate her. I don't hate Shallan. I've grown to really appreciate Shallan. I'm serious. I think he's done something very special with this book. And while I haven't read enough books to determine how special this is, I'm pretty sure this one's very special. It was a very good book. And it has revived my love for book reading again, which I'm so happy about. I was honestly halfway through the book just a couple weeks ago, and then I just grinded it out. I will say the book's a slow burner, but I think it's a slow burner that pays off, because you get to the end of the book and you realize, man, that was a journey, and it is about the journey and not the destination with this book. And there are many more journeys to come. So with that being said, I would like to leave off this review with one of my favorite interactions. Hoid, what you saw belongs to you. A story doesn't live until it is imagined in someone's mind. Kaladin, what does this story mean then? It means what you want it to mean, Hoid said. The purpose of a storyteller is to not tell you how to think, but to give you questions to think upon. Too often, we forget that. So yeah, that was a great book. 4.5 stars, because I don't really know how to rate. I mean, this is my first book I'm like reviewing, giving stars on. So 4.5. 4.5. I loved it. I need a break. I gotta cool off with another. My next book is gonna be a bit more light. I'm thinking I pick up something. I don't know, a book about maybe a book about ex-U.S. Coast Guard and his ex-girlfriend's cat. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, thanks. Like and subscribe. Yada yada yada. And yeah, we'll see ya. Bye bye.